I'm not getting married tomorrow. I used to think I really wanted to get married, but
Why?
I've since changed my mind.
Why is that?
I bought a house.
Yeah.
And I've always thought you had to have a husband to have a house. But I realized,
No.
see, you don't, right?
I don't think there's a legal precedent
Right,
for that.
exactly.
Not some of the comments out here attacking the legendary Cheryl Lee Ralph for not knowing that she could have bought a home. Listen, it was 1987. She was around 31 at the time of this Johnny Carson interview, and he was wrong. He said there wasn't a legal precedent, but there was. We as women couldn't buy homes or get a credit card or even open a bank account without a male cosigner, so father or husband, until 1974. And for all of you all that are like, well, that was 13 years before this interview, so surely she knew. Hold on. You've been living in this social media world too long. You've been living in an internet age too long. You've been living with a DVR and a recorder too long. Back then, in 1974, most people probably didn't even have a VCR, which meant if news happened and you didn't hear about it or understand it that day, okay, oh well, you probably forgot, didn't know about it. And Cheryl Lee Ralph, she was 31 at the time of the interview, so she was clearly probably a teenager who definitely wouldn't have been paying attention to that legal change. You just know the stories of those in your village, and people in your village were probably still talking about how they weren't able to purchase a home. Matter of fact, this New York Times article in the 80s talked about how, yes, women, based on the 1974 and 75 laws, are now buying homes, but it was a small percentage. And many of them were still dealing with people who were trying to break the law and tell them they needed a cosigner. For example, there was one lady, she was the head of nursing, meaning she made enough money. And she was told she needed her parents to cosign since she was not married. Excuse me? And before you say, well, her credit must have been low. Honey, you know, there weren't credit scores during the 1980s. Not at this point. That would come a couple of years later. So for me, it's not shame on her for not knowing, but to me, it's kudos to her for, despite not having a smartphone, not having access to the internet, still going forward and being a homeowner. Good for her. And this has been Fair Housing Decoded with me, Dr. Lee. Like, share, and subscribe for more.